So Darth Prime asks, what would happen if Obi-Wan went to Mos Espa while Qui-Gon stayed at the ship? So this is a good question. So I think a lot of things would change because of this, if that's not obvious. You got to remember, effectively, Qui-Gon going there is how he discovered Anakin. And then that's what brought on the entire universe, or the entire franchise. I think if Obi-Wan would have went to Mos Espa instead of Qui-Gon, he would have not... he maybe would have found Anakin. He wouldn't have had that, like... that force detection like Qui-Gon. And if he did, he probably would have did anything about it. You know what I mean? I think that's one of those things where, like, Qui-Gon's intuition is what made him do that. And as we know, Qui-Gon's intuition is one of those things where it's just like, it's unmatched. It's like the living force talking to him. You know, it's not even intuition, like I said. It's legit. The living force is kind of being like, hey, you know, check this out. You know, like, here, come this way. You know, it guides him. So I definitely think that Obi-Wan would have just like been like, I don't know, because you got to remember, while Qui-Gon was kind of more of like a rule breaker, Obi-Wan was very orthodox, and he questioned his master a lot when it came to ideas. Usually Qui-Gon was right, so, you know, Kenobi just kind of went with it, plus he was the Padawan, so he's supposed to listen to his master. But in a lot of ways, Obi-Wan is very orthodox with the way the Jedi do things. So I don't think he would have done what Qui-Gon did, and even if he would have found Anakin, I don't think he would have done the extra steps that would have gotten Anakin to come with them. You know what I mean? I don't think he would have done the extra steps to bring him to the ship and, you know, meet Qui-Gon. And then I think then Qui-Gon would have done it. But there's a lot of steps before they get Anakin to that ship that I don't think Obi-Wan would have gone through, especially cheating on the dice roll. Don't forget, Qui-Gon cheated on the dice roll. So, hey, that's the way it is. You know, you gotta do what you gotta do. So, I don't think Obi-Wan would have did that. That would have been against the code to, like, cheat and especially gamble lives. Like, Jedis don't do that. But hey, you know, Qui-Gon's the type of guy. He follows the code until the code goes against what he's doing, and then he's gotta you know, what he follows the code until the code goes against what he thinks is right. Then he does what he wants. So I think that's one of those awesome things about Qui-Gon. I love it, so good. But yeah, coming back to the original question. What would have happened? Well, we wouldn't have had our story. What would have happened was probably Obi-Wan would have never had Anakin. Palpatine would have probably chose another apprentice to take his spot, or not take his spot, but to, you know, move up in the ranks with him. And Palp would have probably been like did the whole Empire thing anyways, the whole Clone Wars thing, he probably still would have done. Like, he still had that all planned out. The story is just different because now Anakin's not there. So it is a question, though, like, who would he have picked instead? That's an even deeper question. Who would Palpatine have went for instead? When it comes to younger people around Anakin's age, I really don't know if they could have picked anyone else that was as powerful as Anakin. Maybe one person I think that he might have considered was like Quinlan Vos, but by that point, Quinlan was the same age as Obi-Wan, and they were both like 25 in Episode 1, right? So that's pretty old to start manipulating somebody. You got to start young. You know what I mean? You got to introduce yourself as like a nice person, and then slowly be able to manipulate them into the dark side stuff and gain their trust effectively. Maybe like a character like Anakin, or I should say like a character like Quinlan Vos in Anakin's age, he probably would have went with. But I think that's just, I mean, I don't know, but yeah, it's a good question. It's a good question, but like I said, I honestly think that when it comes down to it, if Obi-Wan would have went to to Mos Espa, he wouldn't have found Anakin, or like I said, he wouldn't have brought Anakin with him. So that's a good question. So Tunnel Banana actually just mentioned Palpatine manipulated Dooku at age 70. Hey, that's a good point. Palpatine did manipulate Dooku at age 70, but the difference was, I wouldn't say Dooku got necessarily manipulated in the same way. You know, where Anakin got slowly manipulated to be like more of a henchman, I guess you could say, or be like his bodyguard. Dooku was already mad at the Republic, and he saw Palpatine as a way to kind of get back get back to like a true order. And that's why he joined the Separatists and he did all that. Or he formed the Separatists and did all that stuff. So it wasn't as much as Dooku was on the side of Palpatine. It's just like Palpatine was offering Dooku lots of power and influence. And in order to use that power and influence, you can then achieve what you want. So that was kind of what Dooku was up for. You know, that's what he was trying to do. While Anakin was a different circumstance where he was like manipulated to thinking Palpatine was a good guy this whole time. Of course, he then finds out he's not. And then eventually Palpatine's like, well, actually, hey, don't forget, you know, now I'm going to offer the ability to gain power to save Padme. Don't forget Padme. You forgot about her, didn't you? You know, and that's where it all comes down. You know, a lot of it is truly just about offering someone power that Palpatine had. And that's what really did the manipulation. So it's not even as much about the, for Dooku, it's not as much about him wanting to learn the dark side. It was more about the being able to use said dark side and status to do what he wanted to do, where Anakin was legit just truly manipulated since he was a kid. It is kind of sad. And in a way you can even look at it like this. The Jedi, there are good guys, right? The Jedi are good guys. But even they manipulate from the beginning. When they're brought in, depending on their age or whatever, they are effectively taught a certain way, and that's the way it is. Especially when it comes to, you know, the Jedi of the Republic era. The biggest error they made was they taught their Jedi to effectively push away their emotions instead of understand them and understand how to use their emotions for good. And that is the biggest hit on them. You can take it from a lot of different ways, but yeah, there you go. That's my answer. Hopefully that was a good answer. I kind of went off on a little bit of a tangent there, but you know, in the end, it is all connected. So there you go.